Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when the trajectory of everything you believe about yourself bends, quietly, invisibly, and irreversibly, not because of a grand event, not because of failure or success, but because of one person. One person who manages to see through the layers you've built, who doesn't just see who you are but what you've become in the process of surviving. I used to believe that emotions were variables, manageable, calculable, like energy inputs in a machine. I thought love, empathy, connection, those were beautiful distractions. Necessary for art maybe, or music, but not for building rockets or sustaining innovation. I believed that focus demanded emotional isolation, that the higher you aimed, the colder you had to become. And for a while that worked, or at least it seemed to. You see, when you're driven by an idea so large it consumes you, emotions become noise in the system. Pain, loss, attachment, they can all slow you down, so I built walls, invisible but strong. Every failure became a data point, every heartbreak a calculation in risk management. I didn't even notice when the walls stopped protecting me and started imprisoning me. It's a gradual process. When logic becomes armor, you start mistaking numbness for strength. Then she appeared. Not dramatically, not like in the movies. She didn't crash into my life, she just walked in, quietly, confidently, with an energy that didn't ask for permission to exist. I remember thinking there was something different about her presence. It wasn't demanding, it was grounding. She spoke like someone who wasn't impressed by success or titles or headlines. She was curious, yes, but not about the world I was building. She was curious about the person building it. And that was disarming. Because most people look at what you've achieved and try to extract a story. She looked and simply asked, "Are you happy?" It's such a simple question. But for someone who's been conditioned to solve cosmic problems, it's also terrifying. Happiness wasn't a variable I'd optimized for. It was collateral damage in the pursuit of something bigger. But that question lingered like a glitch in a perfect algorithm. Over time, conversations with her felt like stepping into a mirror I didn't want to look into. She didn't challenge my intelligence, she challenged my numbness. And that's something most people are too afraid to do. You see, emotional numbness often masquerades as control. It gives you the illusion of clarity while robbing you of connection. It keeps you efficient but empty. From a neuroscientific perspective, what she did was fascinating. The brain's limbic system, the part responsible for emotions and memory, operates in tandem with the prefrontal cortex, which governs logic and reasoning. For most innovators, especially those obsessed with optimization, the limbic system gets suppressed over time. It's not that we stop feeling, it's that we train ourselves not to act on feelings. We treat emotions as system errors rather than data, but she reactivated that system, not by force but by presence. Through empathy, the mirror neurons in our brains start firing in synchronization with another person's emotional state. It's a deeply biological process. Love and understanding are not poetic abstractions, they are neurological realities. When someone listens to you without agenda, your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, the chemistry of trust and connection. It's like emotional gravity, pulling you back to the human center of who you are. One night, I remember staring up at the stars through the glass dome of a lab, thinking about colonizing Mars, AI evolution, and the future of humanity. And she said, "You look like you're chasing infinity while running from yourself." I laughed it off at first, but it was the most accurate diagnosis of my life. Because ambition, without self-awareness, becomes a form of escape. You keep creating to avoid confronting the void within. She made me realize that technology and emotion aren't opposites. They're extensions of the same human need to connect, to create, to transcend isolation. You can't innovate effectively if you don't understand empathy. Every breakthrough, from the wheel to neural networks, was born from the same desire to ease suffering, to connect better, to feel understood. Before her, I thought love was inefficient. After her, I understood that love is the most powerful form of intelligence. It teaches you what equations can't. that progress without compassion is just machinery without meaning. The transformation wasn't sudden. There wasn't a cinematic moment of revelation. It was gradual, like sunlight slowly melting frost. There were arguments, silences, misunderstandings. But beneath all that, something profound was happening. The shield I had built to protect myself from emotional chaos was cracking. In neuroscience, there's a phenomenon called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to experience. Love is neuroplasticity in action. It forces your mind to adapt to vulnerability, to expand its tolerance for uncertainty. It's not weakness, it's recalibration. And when that happens, your perception of success changes. You no longer chase achievement for validation. You create because it's an act of shared purpose. I once believed pain was something to be suppressed. She showed me that pain is data. It tells you where healing needs to happen. Just like feedback loops in engineering, emotional pain indicates a misalignment between reality and expectation. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear, it amplifies the distortion. When you listen to it, you learn, you evolve. I started to see that emotion and logic weren't separate operating systems, they were co-processors. Emotion gives logic meaning, logic gives emotion direction. Together, they form the architecture of human potential. And that's what she broke. The illusion that I could be fully human while being emotionally invincible. She didn't destroy the shield with confrontation. She dissolved it with understanding. Every time she looked at me without trying to fix or impress, she was teaching my nervous system something: safety. Emotional safety isn't about protection. It's about permission. Permission to feel without judgment. Most people underestimate what that does to the human mind. When the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, feels safe, it stops overfiring. Cortisol levels drop. Creativity rises. Problem solving becomes fluid again. It's the same biological mechanism that explains why people produce their best ideas in environments where they feel understood. For years, I thought I was optimizing systems. She made me realize I was really trying to optimize myself. I wasn't building machines, I was building mirrors. Every invention was a reflection of an inner question I hadn't answered yet. She didn't give me answers. She gave me silence. The kind of silence that makes you listen differently. The kind that makes you realize that the most powerful technologies in the universe are not silicon-based. They're emotional. They exist in empathy, curiosity, and the ability to love without fear of loss. I used to think vulnerability was a liability. Now I see it as propulsion, because only when you open yourself to being hurt can you truly connect. And connection is the engine of human evolution. The irony is that the same qualities that make someone a great engineer, curiosity, persistence, pattern recognition, are the same ones that make someone capable of great love. You just have to redirect them inward. Her presence became a form of feedback, one that no algorithm could replicate. Every smile, every silence, every honest question was data, not for a project, but for my own consciousness. I began to understand that love in its truest form is not about dependency, it's about resonance. Two minds, two frequencies, aligning in a way that amplifies both. In physics, we call it constructive interference. When waves meet in phase, their amplitudes combine, creating something larger than either could produce alone. That's what real connection does. It amplifies you. And that realization changed everything, not just in my personal life, but in the way I viewed innovation, leadership, even the future of humanity. Because if technology doesn't serve emotional intelligence, it will eventually alienate the very beings it was designed to empower. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest challenge of our century isn't AI alignment or space colonization. It's emotional alignment. It's learning to build machines that understand us without making us forget what it means to be human. And that begins with how we treat each other, with empathy, with awareness, with courage to be emotionally seen. She didn't just break my emotional shield. She made me realize it was never protecting me. It was isolating me from the evolution I needed most. She once told me something that stayed with me ever since. She said, You spend your life trying to make humanity multiplanetary, but have you ever tried to make your own heart habitable? I didn't know what she meant at first. I thought she was being poetic. But as I thought about it, I realized she was right. We can terraform Mars. We can build artificial intelligence smarter than ourselves. We can create electric ecosystems that power the planet. But if the emotional terrain within us remains barren, then all our progress is cosmetic. We'll just be exporting our emotional dysfunctions into new frontiers. She wasn't a scientist, yet she understood human nature with a precision no instrument could measure. She would watch me lose myself in calculations and design meetings and remind me, gently, that rest is not failure. That emotion isn't interference. It's feedback. She believed that the heart is an instrument of perception, not weakness, that it senses patterns that the rational mind can't detect. And perhaps that's what love really is, the most advanced form of perception known to human consciousness. I started to look at my work differently. Every rocket, every neural interface, every electric car was no longer just a product. It was a question. Can we expand our intelligence without losing our humanity? Can we build technology that heals rather than isolates? She believed we could, but only if the people building it were not emotionally hollow. I remember one evening we were walking by the ocean. She said, "You're trying to connect the stars, but you're afraid to connect to yourself." It was a simple sentence, but it felt like a tectonic shift inside me. Because connection is what defines every system in the universe, from the smallest neuron to the largest galaxy. Everything that exists does so in relationship to something else. When you isolate yourself emotionally, you're violating the very physics that make existence possible. And yet so many of us do that. We build our careers on the ruins of our unprocessed emotions. We call it discipline, ambition, focus. But deep down, it's often just fear wearing a suit of logic. Fear of being seen. Fear of being hurt. Fear of being ordinary. And she showed me that courage isn't about conquering fear. It's about being transparent in the face of it. To love even when you know you might lose. To connect even when you might be misunderstood. The human brain is a survival engine. It learns to protect itself through avoidance. When something hurts, it builds cognitive walls. But what's fascinating is that the same neural circuits that register pain are the ones that register growth. In other words, you can't evolve without discomfort. The brain literally rewires itself through the friction of emotional honesty. And that's what she taught me every time I let myself feel, instead of escape. My brain was learning to trust again. Over time, I began to see patterns. The people who build the most enduring legacies aren't the ones who avoid pain, they're the ones who transmute it. They convert heartbreak into wisdom, rejection into resilience, loneliness into empathy. Emotional alchemy, if you will. It's what separates reactive intelligence from creative intelligence. And that, in a way, became my new operating principle. To stop designing only for efficiency and start designing for empathy. Whether it's artificial intelligence that can understand human emotions or habitats that nurture psychological well-being on Mars, the goal is the same: to bring humanity forward without losing the essence that makes it worth saving. She made me see that innovation without empathy is just acceleration toward emptiness. We can move faster than ever, but if we're emotionally disconnected, we're just spinning wheels in a vacuum. Progress becomes noise without meaning. And meaning, she reminded me, doesn't come from success. It comes from connection. The shield I had built over the years wasn't just emotional, it was existential. It kept me from feeling fully alive. When she broke it, it was like light flooding into a sealed chamber. At first it burned, vulnerability always does. But gradually it became warmth. The kind of warmth that doesn't demand anything. It just illuminates. There's something profoundly humbling about being seen, not for what you've done, but for who you are beneath all of it. She could see the exhaustion behind the ambition, the tenderness hidden beneath the intellect. And she didn't try to change it. She just witnessed it. Sometimes that's all healing really is, being truly witnessed without condition. We often talk about love as a feeling, but I've come to understand it as a form of intelligence, a unifying field that integrates all aspects of human consciousness. When you operate from that field, decisions become clearer, creativity flows effortlessly, and fear loses its grip. It's not mystical, it's neurological coherence. When the brain, heart, and body synchronize, you enter what scientists call flow. She was my living reminder of that flow. I used to think the future belonged to those who mastered machines. Now I think it belongs to those who master themselves. Because every external innovation is ultimately a reflection of an internal evolution. We build what we are. If we're divided within, our creations will divide. If we're whole, our creations will heal. And that's why I believe love is not a distraction from greatness. It's a prerequisite for it. The deeper your connection, the more precise your perception of reality becomes. Emotion doesn't cloud logic, it refines it. It adds dimensionality to thought. It transforms intelligence into wisdom. She helped me see that empathy isn't weakness. It's design intelligence. It's what makes a system adaptable, resilient, and sustainable. Without it, even the most advanced civilizations collapse under their own brilliance. With it, humanity can thrive beyond the stars. I often think about her now, not with nostalgia, but with gratitude, because she gave me the most valuable insight any human being can receive, that the greatest frontier is not outer space, it's inner space. You can map the entire universe and still be lost inside yourself. But when you begin to understand your own emotional cosmos, you find a kind of gravity that no external achievement can provide. She didn't teach me to love her. She taught me to love through her, to see love as a state of being, not a transaction, to recognize that connection isn't something you find, it's something you allow. And that changed how I lead, how I innovate, how I see humanity's future. Because the truth is, every leap forward in science or technology begins with one simple human moment. Someone caring enough to ask, can we make this better? Empathy is the mother of innovation. Curiosity is its father. Together they birth progress. So if there's one message I want to leave you with tonight, it's this: let your walls break. Let someone see you. Let your emotional circuitry reconnect with your human purpose. Because the same energy that builds rockets can heal hearts if directed inward first. The woman who broke my emotional shield didn't just change me. She recalibrated the compass by which I navigate everything. She reminded me that intelligence without emotion is blindness, and emotion without intelligence is chaos. The balance between the two, that's where genius lives. That's where humanity evolves. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age where machines are learning to think, but the real revolution will begin when humans learn to feel again. When we understand that emotional courage is the next step in human evolution, the courage to connect, the courage to be open, the courage to be real. So build, innovate, explore, but don't forget to feel. Because somewhere between the equations and the stars lies the pulse that keeps us all alive. And if you ever find someone who helps you hear that pulse again, someone who looks past your armor and sees your essence, don't run. Let them in. Because sometimes one person can do what a lifetime of logic cannot. They can break the shield. And in doing so, they don't destroy you, they set you free. And that, my friends, is how one woman changed the trajectory of everything I thought I understood about being human. Thank you.